Hello everybody, my name is Wes and I'm here to show you my project called TcpFeatureFinder. TcpFeatureFinder will search the output from the tool TCPFlow for specific features, and these features can be anything. It can be the output from bulk extractor, it could be a new line delineated list, it can be almost anything. So I will show you what that is about. It's written using Python 3.5. It's not compatible with earlier versions because it uses some of the newer Python utilities. So let's clear this. So first of all, I'll just show you how to use it. It's really simple to use. It's a one-line utility. There are a few options that specify directories used while TFF is running. The path to the feature file directory, which holds feature files, which will then be parsed, to get the features that you want to look for within the TCP flows. It holds a path to the TCPFlow output directory, a path to the output database, which will be generated while TFF runs, and a path to the output directory where all of the generated reports and the TCP flows that contain features will be stored. So as you can see here on the right, we're looking at the root directory of my project. So we have a folder for plugins, which plugins will be used to extract features, eliminate features that were found if need be, as well as generate custom reports if you like. I'll go a little bit more into plugins towards the end, but basically the best part about TcpFeatureFinder is that you can write plugins that will allow you to pull features from any number of disparate sources, online databases, personal databases. I mean, the possibilities are endless. For my demonstration, I created two plugins, one that will pull a blacklisted set of IP addresses known to be associated with malware, and one that will parse bulk extractor output for certain features such as credit card numbers, email addresses, and the like. So let's go ahead and give it a run. Just use all the default options since everything is laid out like I want it to be. So you can see the TFF output file or folder is already been generated. So while we do that, let's look at the README just to go over some of the output. So there'll be several reports generated, an SQLite database which contains the table for TCP flows and their associated information, and a table for found features, which is linked to specific TCP flows. And then we'll get an aggregated set of TCP flows that contain features, so we'll strip out all of those flows that we're not interested in. The reports that are generated, it comes with 4 reports standard. Like I said, you can generate more reports in your plugins if you so choose. There's a feature type histogram, and a feature type is basically associated with what kind of plugin you have. So bulk extractor features will be designated, bulk extractor feature type. Blacklist features will be blacklist feature type. So when you write your plugins, you can name your feature however you would like. An IP histogram, which will show IPs in order of how many features are associated with that IP, whether they are being sent to that IP or from that IP. And then for each IP that is associated with a feature, it will get an IP report that'll just tell you the number and types of features, histograms for features found with the IP as a source, with the destination, total, and a histogram of other IPs who participated in TCP flows with that IP. And you'll also get a TCPFlow report for each TCP flow, just giving you some basic information like which features were found. So the TFF has finished running, so let's go take a look at the output. First, let's dive into the database really quick. Here you can see our 2 tables in the database. TCP flows just stores information about each of the TCP flow files from the output of TCP flow. So you get the source IP, destination IP, the file path. And then the features table holds all the meat, so all the actual features that have been found will be stored here. There'll be, which TCPFlow it's a part of, what kind of feature it is, and the position of that feature will be the offset from the start of the file to the beginning of the line holding the feature. We can go in and browse here. You can just see all of these different features were found on our run. Looks like we found a total of 490. I don't see any blacklists. Yeah, so none of our blacklist IPs hit. So let's take a look at the IP histogram. Really simple. It's just an IP histogram of found features, so you get the rank or the IP associated with most features and how many features were found there. You'll notice that these numbers total up to more than 490, which is the number of features that we had in our database, and that is okay because a feature will be associated with at least 2 IP addresses, the source and the destination. Let's go back. We'll see our feature type histogram. Same thing. Yep. So here, just confirmation. We didn't find any blacklisted features. So we can look in here. These are all the TCP flows that had some sort of associated feature, and then for each one of those TCP flows, we'll find a report. The report will just tell you which features were found, what types of features were found in there, the total number of features, source and destination port. We can also look at the IP reports. So the IP report, it'll tell you the number of unique features found, the total number of features found, and the feature types found. So it looks like we have found several emails in this flow, and associated with this IP, and all of those features associated have been flowing back and forth between this specific IP address. So if you total them up, you'll see that it's 24, and that all looks good. So those are the reports. That's the output generated. It might not look like much, but it's actually pretty powerful. It'll allow you to draw, associations that you might not have been able to make beforehand. So for instance, if you have the bulk extractor output from a disk image and a set of network capture files, and you want to know if there's any relation between the two, you can run TcpFeatureFinder on it, and you'll know pretty quickly whether you have any affiliations. So let's just dive into the meat of TFF really quick, just to get you an idea of how it works. This is the meat, run.py. It creates a driver class which supports the execution of TcpFeatureFinder. It'll build the TCPFlow objects and commit them to the database. It'll initialize all the active plugins, and it'll run and generate the output reports. Report builder, it's pretty self-explanatory. It just creates an object that allows you to generate all the reports. It gets a copy of the database controller so it can do queries in order to build the reports. Additionally, we have the database builder, which is actually contains several classes, the classes that define the database that we create, as well as a database controller, which will add TCP flows and features to the database, and it also provides several convenience functions that you can use in your plugin, like getting the count of all the feature types, or getting a list of all the IPs or the feature types associated with a specific flow. And helpers is just a couple helper methods. It's nothing too interesting. TCPFlow just defines the object backing up the TCPFlow search feature. So there'll be one of these objects for each TCPFlow item, and it allows you to search and return the features that were found. And then finally, the most important and interesting is the plugin class, which is just an abstract class, abstract plugin used for developing the plugins. It defines the interface that you'll want to use if you decide to use a plugin with TFF. Basically, there are three methods that you can call. Only one of them is required, and that's get features. So get features will provide the driver with a list of features that the plugin would like it to search the TCP flows for. Pretty self-explanatory. There's also the option to define a filter features method. Basically what will happen is after features are found, the TCPFlow object will come back and ask the plugin, are any of these ones that you would like to discount? So it'll provide the flow path as well as the features that it found for that particular plugin. And what you can do is you can open up the flow, look at the context of how the feature was found, and decide whether you would like to eliminate it based on some certain context. You know, for instance, if it came from a whitelisted website or something like that. And finally, you also get a method to generate your own custom reports. These reports will be saved in the same place as the standard TFF output. You'll inherit the database controller, which is just an instance of the database controller object I showed you before, so you can interact with the database and get all the information you need to define your custom report. So the structure of the plugins is as follows. I'll just run through the examples that I created. The simplest one is just a list one. It just returns features, so it does no filtering. In order to get features, it'll open up a feature file, read a feature from each line, so it'll be line delineated, and then it'll return that as the features. Super simple. You can just have a list that you hand put together, or pulled off the web or something. So, and I actually use this in another plugin, the blacklist plugin. So what this will do is it will pull a set of blacklisted IPs from the internet, from this website here, 1,000, and it'll just write it out to a file, and then it'll use the list. It'll use the list plugin in order to just read that file and use it as features. There's no filtering again in this one either, and no custom reports, which is also true of the bulk extractor plugin, which basically just grabs features from specific sets of bulk extractor output, gathers them all up, and uses those features. So we can just, the parsers will parse several different types of files, the emails, credit card numbers, domain features, and URL searches. And the final thing to consider when creating your plugins is you have to, the package used for supporting the plugins requires this thing called, it's just a configuration file with the extension yapc plugin. You just have to designate a name for your feature type, so this will be reflected as your feature type, and the module associated with this plugin file. A description, author, version. Pretty simple stuff. And finally, in order to make sure that your plugins are active, you just have to come into the configuration file, list the name under plugins. You can see here that I deactivated list.txt, so you can also use this to deactivate. And you can also turn on and off all of the feature reports too, just depending on what you want. So if you only want an IP histogram, you can do that. You just comment, uncomment in the same manner as above. And that's about it. So thank you for watching. I hope somebody out there will find it useful. That's it.